Hey, it's Marty, the Meticulous Hack. This is the 3-year point, pretty much 3-year point of when I first stained these 3 decks on the back of my friend's house. Here in Chicago, I'm going to show you what I used, how well it held up, and in these tough Chicago seasons. Chicago is a great benchmark for how well anything can hold up. I mean, it's supposed to be spring here right now, and look at it. This is horrible. Great town, a lot of personality, horrible weather. Do want you to know that I sanded, I stripped it, I cleaned it. I did all the prep work that you would do for maximum adhesion. I'm going to also show you some tips on restaining, especially if your product has gone a little bit too long. There's some important things that I think you need to know that I haven't found on other videos. So I'm going to work in reverse here. Let's go back 3 years. I'm kind of the Benjamin Buttons of video staining guys today. I used Pittsburgh Paramount Semi-Transparent. This is not a product endorsement, it's just what the guy at Menards suggested. I chose the color of Mountain Cedar. As I started applying the stain, I realized how dark it was. It was like 3 or 4 shades darker than what was on the can, but it did look really good, so I decided to keep going. And here's the way it turned out. The can showed it to be more of a golden color, which would have been nice to contrast with the red walls. This turned out to be more of a redwood color, but still looked pretty great, and also turned out to be a really good product. When you research this process, you'll notice that people say, don't do it when it's going to rain. It's got to have 12 hours to dry, or it's going to be blotchy. Well, in my case, it rained less than 4 hours later, and this is what it looked like. It was beating up fine, but would it leave spots like everybody said that it would? 1 year later, no spots. Now this was a 1-coat application, and you can see these darker areas where I had to apply between the slats with a paintbrush and then went over it with a roller. And the hand railings were rough because they took the brunt of the weather damage. This one I used wood putty on, which was a mistake. Wood epoxy is the way to go. Or maybe even some of that flexible caulking they use on log cabins. At the 3-year point, this product has gone past its sweet spot, at least in the Chicago weather. The sides, including the spindles, are just fine, but any surface facing the elements had to be cleaned in the crevices, sanded where needed, and stripped. Then I figured I would just put another coat of the same product on, and that would match the existing sides and spindles, which I didn't have to touch. Except Pittsburgh quit making this particular color, so there's no way I can match it. So instead of stripping it, I just cleaned it really well, because I didn't have the patience or time now to redo these complete entire decks. I had to experiment now. My goal is to cover all this chipped up mess here, and this is the same Pittsburgh product, same color, in a transparent. I put it on right here, and it soaks into the wood nicely, but as you can see through it too much. And this is a semi-transparent in a Cabot, which is a Sherwin-Williams product. And it's a semi-transparent, but you can still see through it, and this color doesn't match. I thought it might. So I'm going to show you what you need to do to cover this mess. After some trial and error, I ended up with Pittsburgh, same brand, Ultra, different lineup, because the Ultra is a solid color instead of the semi-transparent. They didn't have the Mountain Cedar, so I got it mixed according to the color chart. The closest thing I could come up with to this color. So, let's see how it works out. Here's a good spot to test it on. That's gonna have to be close enough. Be great if it had more brown in it, but I'm just trying to make do with what they had. Menards said that they can't mix a custom color to match what you have using transparent or semi-transparent. It has to be a solid. I'm doing my cracks and the edges, and I'm being careful not to get it on the spindles, and also bringing it out a little bit so that I don't have to get the roller so close to these things. If I would have done this at the 2-year point instead of 3, assuming they were still selling the same color back then, I may have been able to get away with just cleaning it up and putting another coat of the same semi-transparent on top of it. As you can see, their color matching technology wasn't quite up to par, but I was running out of time. I rationalized it by saying that, hey, this stuff is at least going to protect it better because that's what solids do, as opposed to transparents or semi-transparents. They have more weather and UV protection. I'll close this with a lesson learned, which I haven't seen posted anywhere, but it seems like it'd be common knowledge. If you're going to use a transparent or a semi-transparent, great. You're going to see your wood grain through your color, and that's beautiful. But make sure that whatever product you use, make sure they have a solid in the same color that you choose. So that way you won't run into what I ran into, which is a mess. And let's face it, it looks awful. I've got to redo this. I can't live like this. My friend just got worn down from trying to find the right color. And she said, just slap it on there. And these are in the back of the house anyway. That one's not even a deck. It's landings and steps. But you couldn't give me one of these things. I swear. Even the landing and steps, I'd do something else. I don't know. I'd parachute out the window or the door with a cocktail umbrella or something. What about slides? Slides are underrated. Anyway, you know, it's a lot of work. I hope you enjoy your decks. Decks. Wow, man. You got to be young, I guess. All this maintenance, what a ball and chain. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.